Hi, good afternoon, everyone. By the way, my name is Anrojet D. Canoy. I am the fifth reporter of this class who will gonna talk about or discuss with this specific person, Thomas Aquinas. So, by the way, thank you so much for allowing me to be here to, share the ideas that I have when nag-research ko about kay Thomas Aquinas. So, let's go and proceed. At the end of this topic, we are expected to learn about the life of Thomas Aquinas, of course, his biography, his education, Aquinas' theology and philosophy, also Aquinas' great influence to church doctrines in centuries, and his major works. So, who is Thomas Aquinas? So, Thomas Aquinas was an Italian Dominican friar philosopher, a Catholic priest, and the doctor of the church. He's also a popular theologian or the influential philosopher and jurist in the tradition of the scholasticism. And he's also the one that uh, put, I mean, yeah, produced a comprehensive synthesis of Christian theology and Aristotelian philosophy that influenced Roman Catholic doctrine for centuries and was adopted as the physical philosophy of the church in 1971. So, also, he was the prominent proponent of the natural theology and argued that God is the source of both the light and the natural reason and the light of the faith. So, we are going to proceed with the biography of Saint Thomas Aquinas. So, Aquinas was born in circa 1225 in Italy, in the kingdom of Sicily, if I'm not mistaken. So, his parents was Landulf of Aquino and Theodora Caracciolo. So he was also the youngest child among his eight siblings, and their family is considered to be lower nobility. So, just a quick trivia. In British nobility, it is divided into two, which is the higher nobility and the lower nobility. So, this nobility kanang unsa ni gina describe niyang family nga naay titles and they have kanang ilang privilege and the status of life before, and it's really different from um, the usual or the ordinary people in Italy. So, also, in Thomas' early life, before Saint Aquinas was born, there was a holy hermit shared a prediction with his mother, Theodora, telling that her son would rather enter the order of friars, preacher. It is actually one of the four great mendicants order of the Roman Catholic Church and will become a great learner and achieve an equal sanctity. So, naay ka ng prediction before ang Holy Hermits kay St. Thomas. And following the tradition of the period, St. Thomas was sent to the abbey of the Monte Cassino to train among Benedictine monks when he was just 5 years old. And Aquinas is also described as a witty child who had received a good souls. At Monte Cassino, this young boy repeatedly posed a question, what is God? Sa iyang mga benefactors before. So, moving on. So, with regards to the education that Aquinas has on his on his time, so Thomas Aquinas spent the next 5 years completing his primary education at Benedictine House of Naples. So during those years as well, he studied Aristotle's work, which would rather later become a major launching point of St. Thomas Aquinas' own exploration of philosophy. And at the Benedictine's house, which was closely affiliated with the University of Naples, Thomas also developed an interest in more contemporary monastic orders. And he was uh, particularly drawn to those that emphasize a life or a spiritual service. So, um, in circa 1239, St. Thomas was began attending the university in Naples, and in 1243, he secretly joined an um, order of Dominican monks, receiving the habit in 1244. So, of course, it was a secret. Siya lang nakabalo. So, when his family found out, they felt so betrayed that Aquinas has turned his back on the principles to which they believe, which their family believed, and that's the reason why they have decided to kidnap um, Thomas that time. So, gibot siyang family is they held him captive for an entire year and gikulong siya sa fortress of San Giovanni at Rocca Secca, and he was released after a year asad. So, of course, after a year, na nakagawas na siya, so iyang family is wala gyapon trust kay Thomas. So, on that time, very kanang ginagungitan gyapon siya sa iyang family, and they even attempted to deprogram Thomas to his new belief. And from 1245 to 1252, St. Thomas Aquinas continued to pursue his studies in Dominican in Naples, Paris, and Cologne, order of Dominican monks. He was actually ordained in Cologne, Germany in 1250 and went to teach theology at the University of Paris. So, na siya isa ka professor na si Albert the Great, si Saint Albert the Great. So, Thomas subsequently earned his doctorate in technology, and it was consistent with the Holy Hermit's prediction sa iyang mother before siya natao. So, Thomas proved his exemplary scholar, though ironically, his modesty sometimes led his classmates to misperceive him as a dim-witted. I don't know, bisig na nakita yung mga classmate nga naka-conclude sila nga, ay, ka-weirdo, ani niya, o mo, tang gidisgi, nasa yung nickname, ani, ginatawag siya og hinga na tao. But, after reading Thomas' thesis and thinking about it brilliant, his professor, Saint Albert the Great, proclaimed in Thomas' defense. So, ana si Thomas the Great na, we call this young man, a dumb ox, but his bellowing in doctrine will one day resound throughout the world, which is true. So, up until now, even though kanasap man yung mga 12, keme, kanasap na siya, but still, in the present, and moving on, padayon gyapon nga buhi ang masterpiece or ang story ni or ang contributions ni Thomas Aquinas sa karon nga generation. So mo to siya ang prediction ni Albert the Great pagbasa niya sa defense sa paperworks ni Thomas. So on theology and philosophy of Aquinas. So after he's educated, after niya makagraduate, after his education, St. Thomas Aquinas devoted himself to a life of traveling. Sana all. Yeah, ga-travel siya, gasulat siya, and ga-teach po siya, as well as gina-involve niya sarili into public speaking, and of course, he's also preaching. So, sa iyahang pag-travel around the world, asa pa na siya nag-travel, so, nakakame up siya og 5 ways for proving the existence of God. So, muna siya iyahang kung paunsa niya gi-prove, in what ways niya gi-prove that God is really existing. So the first reason, or the first way, is the unmoved maker. So based on the unmoved maker nga iyahang, you know, uh, proof, observing movement in the world as proof of God. So basically kung saan yung nakita sa world, kung how the world is kanang nagaliho, mo nang isa sa iyahang proof nga there is God, by simply observing the movement on what's going on with his surroundings. That's the first one. And the second is the first cause. So observing cause and effect and identifying God as the cause of everything. So nakita niya diri that uh, God is the cause and effect and the reason for everything, why it happens. The third one is the necessary being, concluding that impermanent nature of beings proves the existence of necessary being God, who originates only from within himself. And the fourth one is the absolute being, varying levels of human perfection and determining that a supreme perfect must therefore exist. And the last one, for the last phase, which is the grand designer, knowing that natural beings could not have intelligence without it being granted to them by God. So that is the 5 ways how Thomas Aquinas proves the existence of God. So I have also kanang nabasa that Saint Thomas Aquinas identified 3 types of law, which is the natural law, the positive, and the eternal law. So the natural law. So this prompts man to act in accordance with achieving goals and governs man's sense of right and wrong. So ani kay kanang nakita niya ang natural law is kanang on how a specific person is willing, if I'm not mistaken, is willing to achieve his goals and nasa sense of right and wrong. And the other one is the positive law. It is the law of the state or the government and should always be the manifestation of the natural law, which is the first law, the natural law. So if there will be a order or any law from the government, it should be manifested by the natural law by making a sense of what is right and wrong. So the eternal law. So in the case of rational beings, it depends on the reason and put into action through free will, which also works towards the accomplishment of man's spiritual goals. So clearly, in this third law, nag-present ni Thomas Aquinas, naghatag siya emphasis diri with regards to the free will that God gave for us. Kanang on how we are going to allocate those time and the free will that God gave us to achieve or to accomplish our spiritual goals. So we have also the ethical theory of Thomas. So Aquinas' ethical theory involves both principles, rules about how to act, and virtues, and also personality traits which are taken to be good or moral to have. And yeah, that is one of the best contributions ni Aquinas sa ethics, kining rules about how to act and the virtues or the personality traits for the morals. So for Aquinas, this is actually kanang makita na to sa book before na familiar ni siya sa kuha na phrase. For Aquinas, the body is not the prison of the soul, but a means for its expression. So this is the famous quotation of Thomas Aquinas as well. And on the third bullet, Aquinas believes people need to identify meaningful goals before they can act. As such, moral theory is a way to facilitate action rather than to do it. So, with this one, kanang Aquinas also believe that before we are going to take an action, kung unsa tong gusto buhaton sa kinabuhi or whatever goals is that, we should know the meaning of it. We should know our purpose before we are going to take an actions or to take a step to move forward, to take an action kung unsang goals atong gusto sa kinabuhi, because in the moral theory, it is a way to facilitate an action nga it will gonna drive you to pursue your goal because you know the meaning of it. And with this one, we have um, major works of Aquinas. So, with this one, give me 1 second. So, sa iyang major works, Thomas Aquinas spent close to 60 known artworks ranging in length from short to comptome. So, ang mga handwritten na masterpiece ni Thomas were distributed to libraries across Europe, and his philosophical and theological writings spanned a wide spectrum of topics, including commentaries on the Bible and discussions of Aristotle's writing on the natural philosophy. So, mo na ang mga manuscript ni Thomas before. It was distributed to asa na lugar, and ginatranslate sa mga maalamon nga tao yon. So yeah, let's go and proceed with one of the famous, one of the many nga mga na-create ni Aquinas sa iyang during his time. So, while teaching at Cologne in the early of 1250s, Saint Thomas Aquinas wrote a lengthy commentary on scholastic theologian Peter Lombard's 4 books of sentences called Scriptum Super Libros Sententiarium, or commentary on the sentences. So during that period, he also wrote De Ente et Essentia, or on being and essence, for the Dominican monks in the parish. So in 1256, while serving as regent master in theology at the University of Paris, Aquinas wrote Impugnantes de cultum et religionem, this is what I pronounce it, or against those who assail the worship of God and religion, at Rhetais, defending mendicants' order that William of Saint Amor had criticized. So, from 1265 to 1274, Saint Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologica is largely philosophical in nature and was followed by Summa Contra Gentiles, which while still philosophical, comes across to many critics as apologetic to the beliefs he expressed in his earlier works. I believe ang Summa Theologica or Contra Gentiles, basta na dira, I believe burag ang Summa Theologica is dira na part niya nasulat ang katong 5 ways sa katong existence, 5 ways sa katong proof na God is really existing. So dito niya nasulat. So Saint Thomas is also known for writing commentaries examining the principles of natural philosophy exposed in Aristotle's writings. So muna siya ang yung mga writings before on the heavens, meteorology, on generations and corruptions, on the soul, Nicomachean ethics, and metaphysics, among others. So, the influence of um, Thomas Aquinas' writing has been so great, guys. In fact, that and there's an estimated 6,000 commentaries on his work exist to date. So, ing ana siya ka how nga na ka-famous ang mga works ni Thomas Aquinas. And for the last part, the later life and death of Aquinas. So, in June 1272, Saint Aquinas agreed to go to Naples and start theological studies program for the Dominican house neighboring the university. While he was still writing prolifically, his works began to suffer in quality. So, during that time, murag nakas murag murag na unprioritize or ambot kanang nana siya nagsuffer na siya sa quality sa iyang mga writings ani nga time. So there's a feast of Saint Nicholas in 1273 where Saint Thomas Aquinas had a mystical vision that made him writing seems unimportant to him. So at a mass, he reportedly heard a voice coming from a crucifix that said na thou hast written well of me, Thomas. What reward will thou have? Lalong kayo siyang English pero moto siya. But niya na lang si Saint Thomas Aquinas na none of other than myself, Lord. So that time naani si iyahang Aquinas confessor si Father Reginald of Piperno. Ginadasig siya to write again, gina-urge siya to keep him writing, and then Thomas replied, I can do no more. Such secrets have been revealed to me that all I have written now appears to be little value. So ana siya. And Saint Thomas Aquinas never wrote again. So so with that, Saint Thomas Aquinas died on the monastery of Fasinova on March 7, and he was canonized by Pope John in 1323. Yeah. So that's it. So thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope na we have the learnings from Aquinas for the topic that I have today. Thank you so much and have a blessed afternoon.